Hello, welcome. Today we're talking Crowdstrike and all that big news. Aqua has some cyber layoffs, and furry hacktivists have hacked Disney.
Yes, he's Mike. I'm Steve. Welcome to Wired In.
Yes, welcome back to Wired In, the show where we have 10 articles, 10 wrap ups, quick breakdown for you, all of the news in the tech space.
All the articles are described below as usual. Hit the bell to be notified when we go live. And shall we dive into it?
Yeah, big news to kick it off, obviously. We have to talk about it first.
I know, elephant in the room. It is the almighty, and everyone's heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, you were affected by it, even if you didn't understand it. Crowdstrike. Crowdstrike had a boo-boo. They issued an update to Windows, and not just Windows that would be used in a more, as we would think, on your desktop, but even cloud versions of Windows, autonomous versions of Windows. And I like this. Hold on, we have to do this. All versions of Windows, let's just put it. And it turned it into the blue screen of death. It was a wonderful little upgrade. I really love the title of this too. Impacting the configuration update, impacting the Falcon sensor and the Windows operating system. Did you know that the acronym for the Windows operating system, Foster, is blue screen of death?
I did not.
This is on the Crowdstrike blog. By the way, we mentioned the links are down below. This is the post-incident review dated like just a day or so ago. So you can go check that out. You can download the executive briefing. There's a bit of a what happened, which I think is slightly old news because I'm going to ask you, Foster, were you affected by this at all?
I was not. I came home on Thursday from Boston from a work trip. However, I do have colleagues that were flying on Friday, and it took them, 16 plus hours to get home. Not
I
a
was
fun day.
I flew to Denver just before it happened. And then we were all meant to fly back on the Monday after. And anybody flying Delta flew Wednesday. They went to the airport on Monday and stayed in the airport for 48 hours. Well done, Delta. They did not handle it that well.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought about it. It's the mother of all boo-boos, right? Moab?
That is it. It was so bad. They have a little summary way down the bottom of this article. You can say what happened, and it's a bit of geek speak about how they issued something about the content validator. There was a bit of a coding error. That was an out of bounds memory read, classic, like probably C code. And then how do we prevent this from happening again, which issues nothing surprising. It's called stuff you should have already done. And amazingly, the CrowdStrike stock dropped a third. It went from like 350, it's now at 250.
Mm-hmm.
And I love when we have pundits giving us more exact information.
Yeah, wow.
$3.4 billion impact.
Well, if you think they should have been valued at 363 before, it's a good time to buy.
Yeah. I honestly, that's actually probably not a terrible thing to do right now. Yeah. It was like back in February when Palo Alto said a boo-boo and they dropped. And if you bought then, you're doing okay now. Mm-hmm. All right, let's fire straight on into our next subject. Near and dear to our hearts.
Yes, Google's $23 billion deal to buy Wiz, the Israeli cybersecurity startup, has fallen through. Now, Wiz tried to buy Lacework a few months ago, and that fell through. Google, yeah. Apparently they had talks to buy Wiz, and then that fell through. Now, what's funny is it didn't fall through on Google's side. Wiz said that in their due diligence, they didn't like how Google is tied up in antitrust lawsuits, which makes me very cautious because I'm like, are you just fake buying companies to get media attention? Is that what's happening right now?
It's actually a pretty good ploy.
Right?
Yeah. It's not, maybe. There's a hot take.
Yeah, this should be in the WTF. So anyway, stay tuned. Next month, Wiz will try to buy something else or something else is going to happen. But yeah, a lot of interesting news in the, let's say, unicorn cybersecurity startup area. So also, the four owners of Wiz are part of the 36 Israelis that are billionaires. That's how much.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
So also shows their stake in the company. The company's valued at 12 billion, but then the four of them are Israeli billionaires. It's like good for them.
Yeah, I would suggest that their big run to IPO that they say they're going to do instead of accepting an outrageously inflated acquisition value means that they've already done some handy cashing in, I think. So while the employees are probably like, what? That's how it works. Good luck. Good luck to Wiz on their IPO. All right. Next up, check this out. Probably falling under your radar. I think I heard about this from Clint, aka TLDR newsletter, but I don't think it was in the newsletter. RedFlag. This is really quite cool. RedFlag uses AI to identify high-risk code changes, and then it runs in batch mode. It looks at candidate testing, CI pipelines, flagging PRs, adding reviewers. It's like an AI co-pilot for commits and PRs.
Okay.
I haven't figured out how the thing works. Like I went through it. There's a handy little diagram here, which I like to pop up, that kind of shows you its brains, it gets commits squashed, turns out into commits, looks if there's a Jira ticket, looks like it grabs the Jira ticket info as well, try and give it a bit more context to find out why the commits were there. And then it spins around and makes decisions as to whether a more detailed security review should take place. Throw AI at it and suddenly it has a brain. I don't get it. There's only 2 contributors, but from my past world, when I was doing more code security as opposed to cloud security, we used to work with companies to design these really complicated pipelines to look at small commits versus big commits to decide whether a static analysis should be run or certain tools and automations should be implemented. It was a pain. If this does what it says it does, it's great. Now, this is why I want to try it and have a demo, but I guess we're going to have to leave that for the future. Maybe contact one of the 2 contributors and see if they can show it to us.
Yeah, it would be neat if it was integrated into something like GitHub. Let's say you have an open source project and you create an issue and people create a fork, make a bunch of commits, commit it back as a PR, and it just goes through and says, okay, this is what we're trying to fix. This is the code that was submitted. Yay or nay, right? I mean, I'm going to review it anyways, but if you say, hey, like, check out these few lines that we want to highlight, there's some troubling stuff there. That would be very interesting.
It's super cool. Yeah, because the security team generally stays away from the GitHub world. So it'd be good if there's a way of telling the security team, this one's a bit special. So let's put a bit of a magnifying glass on it.
The biggest thing it needs to look out for is the Apache 2.0 license. We can't be running this this model on every repository.
Good point. And with that bombshell.
Yeah, on something a little bit more close to home. FTC probes IBM's $6.4 billion HashiCorp takeover. This was earlier in the year. There's a whole YouTube short that I put out if you want to check out my breakdown. However, they did say it was going to be to the end of the year for this deal to close, which was suspiciously long. Because I've seen other startups, and I guess because it's a public company, there's a lot more paperwork to be done. But with IBM's ownership of Red Hat and Ansible being the second, I guess, co-leader in market share, or at least close behind Terraform, they are closely watching. So Chef and Puppet need to step up their market share in order to push this one through, I guess.
I like that the content though here, it says it's not as if Terraform is an unchallenged juggernaut. They're like, well, no, but Ansible is the other challenger.
Well, I think the biggest issue is neither of those 2 BUs make a ton of money, right? Infrastructure as code doesn't make the money. The infrastructure makes money. No. They're both open source projects. So I have a feeling that this will get pushed through on the pure open source alone. You might see a weird push from the FTC to make Terraform open source, but I'd argue that OpenTofu is already out there anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
There are up and comers in the startup world, like Pulumi that use it under the hood. So yeah, I think they're just looking at market share and going, whoa, there's a red flag here. And then once they understand the technology behind it, they're going to push it through anyways.
Yeah, it probably also gaining attention just for the price they paid.
Yes. Yeah, which it took a nosedive. Alrighty. I was kind of shocked. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it did. All right. What do we have up next? Is this just before we get into the crazy, Tessel. I like the concept of this, the idea of AI native development, and what is also just green flagged me, I suppose is a good way of putting it, is this article, and this founder is Guy Podjarny. Guy Podjarny is the founder of Sneak, and him and their kind of key evangelist advocate, Simon Maple, and just kind of went quiet like 6 months ago. And I saw Simon Maple had left Sneak, and I thought, what? This is weird. Like they were like the cornerstones of that establishment. And then just a few weeks ago, Tesla pops up. And the theory here is that, I think when we talked about this once before, they have the AI is built in, not bolted on. And at the moment, everybody is panicking to bolt on AI into whatever they were doing in the past. And Guy's theory here is that, well, if we're looking at something to modernize, we should throw it away and assume AI from the start. And I can't help but agree with that. But what does that look like, and what does that mean? Remains to be seen, doesn't it?
The big question. It's a startup. It's a nice website or article. It's got everything you need to hear, all the complaints about people using AI, and it's like, okay, what does the product look like? I don't know.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think, obviously a bunch of successful startups, the right founders. So you come up with a marketing pitch, and then you get funding and you build a product. Like, does this look like a developer hub or a backstage with built-in, AI LLMs in the background? I'm not exactly sure.
We'll figure it out. Watch this space.
All right, into the crazy stuff.
This is easily my favorite. Go for it.
All right. Yeah. Windows version from 1992 is saving Southwest. But right now, obviously, with the CrowdStrike outage, some companies were more affected than others. Southwest was not, because it's running a 30-year-old operating system.
Was it 3.1?
30, yeah, Windows 3.1, 32 years old, sorry. Along with UPS and FedEx, haven't had any issues with the CrowdStrike outage. I told Steve, if anybody watches The Boys, it's like the Homelander meme where he's looking around. All right.
He's like, I did something very bad.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, the CTO was like, this was by design. We kept that operating system in production by design.
There you go. It's rock solid. Windows 3.1. I like the slew of memes. The sphere in Las Vegas with the blue screen of death. This is pretty funny. Like, they were actually everywhere. This is like the part 2 of what we mentioned earlier with CrowdStrike, but the more hilarious version of it. Yeah, so there you go. Have you ever watched Battlestar? Reminds me of Battlestar Galactica, when that came back, and how the idea was to be less text to avoid the AI Cylon invasion. Who knew, right?
That's the entire premise of Dune as well.
Yeah. It's art imitating life, or life imitating art. I don't know what it is, but it's
funny
it's
either
real.
way.
It's funny either way. All right, not so funny.
Sad WTF news, but cyber unicorn Aqua acts as 10% of the workforce. This was after, I believe, a similar layoff in the late stages of 2022. They say that they're streamlining to become more efficient for their customers. They are a startup, so there has to be some sort of exit ramp, right? I believe they're past Series E funding, right?
They're deep in it. Been around since 2015. As you know, I used to work there. And oh, by the way, let's accept some praise while we do that. I put that up there because she used to work there as well. And was part of the previous 10%, I believe.
Yeah, well, I'm so sorry to hear that. Hope none of your friends are in that group either. But it is interesting to, I guess, sort of see the consolidation / layoff of cybersecurity startups. Lacework, Aqua. I feel like Sysdig is somewhat in there too.
Yeah,
they're kind of in hover mode, right?
Yeah, I think cybersecurity took a real boom during the pandemic, because that was the only way to really. We all lived online. Cyber threats went up. I know most stock, publicly traded cybersecurity companies went up during the pandemic, and therefore funding was big and hiring was huge. So corrective actions kind of need to happen. Aqua's in an interesting place because they were a competitor with some of the big people. Like, let's face it, CrowdStrike is a competitor. Palo Alto, Wiz, which is like accepting ridiculous offers, which means Aqua is actually legitimately could be maintaining at the moment. So, and may not immediately have an exit strategy. So what do? You got to make it look good by removing some of the extraneous employees. I just find it interesting that it says the employees that are laid off are not based in Israel. So they're very much localizing.
Yes, the last round of layoffs, it did say it specified from what areas people were laid off, but not this time.
All right, moving swiftly on. This is a bit of a big one. a bit.
Yeah.
Over to you, Foster.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a massive hack. I believe it happened in late 2022. Tens of millions of AT&T cell phone customers were exposed in a massive data breach, so the telecom company revealed Friday. Nearly all of its cellular customers. So just know you're on a list. We had, what was it, the mother of all passwords and username list we talked about 2 weeks ago. That is definitely going to get beefier next year. The stolen logs contain a record of every number AT&T customers called or texted, including customers of other wireless networks. So let's just say Apple and Android, they better beef up their call blocking abilities, because it's about to get, well, I mean, it's already pretty bad. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but the last few years have gotten a little crazy with random scams all the time.
It was, I think it was this article, but there was one of the articles where I learned a new word. I don't know if it was this one, but it was like, it was talking about the size of a breach, and the word was like, it wasn't terabytes, it was like tebabytes. It like had a B in it. I'm like, what is that word? How many bytes? I didn't understand. It was too big for me to grasp the size of the data breach. And I think it was this one.
To me, the most interesting tidbit was, the SEC, they had that legislation put out that you have to disclose a breach within 4 days, or you have to apply for some sort of extension to say it's national security not to do it.
Oh, yeah, right.
So this came out, and then the FBI and security got involved. They delayed it. And it was to the point where the Justice Department stepped in after learning about the hack and delayed it even further. And so part of me thinks, tinfoil hat on, is that because of backdoors, or because they were doing specific things, they left something open. They left a door open that they shouldn't have. They were pulling customer records, or they had access to customer records, and then they left something open, or somebody leaked it. Yeah.
Oh boy.
That's my theory. Don't quote me on
that. You're saying it in a recorded internet. So
okay, quote me.
All right, I'm gonna throw this one at you too, because I'm not sure I want to talk about this stuff. I don't even know how you found it.
Yeah, anybody who's played Club Penguin, this is the relics of it. Club Penguin got shut down, and apparently it really made some furry hacktivists upset. I'm trying to find the name of it. It was called null something, and literally the next line says, "Do not search this word on Google. You will be interested by the results, or maybe your corporate laptops will be interested."
Null.
So it happened. A classic piece of Trojan horse malware. They packaged it up with a mod for a specific game, and then a software engineer at Disney downloaded it. They got access to all of their Slack archives, pulled it, and so they can see specific company releases, games, projects, the lot. There it is. It's called Null Bulge.
Null Bulge. Yep, I zoomed in on it.
So when I first saw the article, it was just that Disney got hacked for 1.1 gigabytes of information, or terabytes of information, and then you read into it, you're like, this was targeted and actually pretty interesting. They claim it's just because Disney shut down Club Penguin, which is pretty funny. Please don't shut down RuneScape or any of those other old online games that were available when I was growing up. We need LimeWire to come back now, apparently, too.
Oh, gosh. Nice. All right. And let's close it out with probably one of the most shocking things from Truffle Security. Anyone can access deleted and private repository data, and private, I like that, on GitHub. This is a really quite comprehensive article. You can see, whoa, it goes all the way on. But it was talking about it basically does a little bit of a deep dive into what is essentially the fork network. So when you fork a repository, just how much data persists between a fork and because, like, I'm trying to think of, there's so many examples in here, but accessing deleted fork data, or forking a repository, and then new commits go into the parent, and then you can even delete the parent if there's, say, sensitive data in there, and you can still access it via the fork.
Yeah, a typical example would be, hey, I'm using this Terraform AWS module and I need a specific API key. So I copy someone's module over, I hard code the API key, upload it, and then GitHub sends me a message saying, hey, you just uploaded an API key. You need to get rid of this. Instead of just deleting the commit or going through that process, just like, I'm just going to wipe it and start a new project. That information is still available.
Yeah, if it's been forked. If it's been forked.
If it's been forked, correct.
Right, because the fork network keeps a persistent copy of everything you do, even if it's upstream.
Yeah, if you scroll down like a little bit more, you'll see exactly there's an image that outlines what this looks like. That one right there.
There we go.
Oh, you went too far, but that's fine.
Damn it. This one?
No, above. I literally meant like the smallest bit down, like the next page. There it is.
There we go. Okay, good. Yeah, good diagram. But yeah, I think if you do anything on GitHub and you've ever made a mistake and you think you've covered your tracks, you got to go click this link and read the article down below, because you may not have covered your tracks. Yeah. And there's actually tools out there that I think that look for sensitive secrets. Like, I mean, this comes from Truffle Security, so what a surprise, right? That's their MO, is to look for secrets in repositories. And you can see they've done this research because it means they're probably going to modify their product to start looking for secrets that you maybe think you deleted, but because of the fork network, you're actually still out there, still exposed. So
it's also why short-lived tokens are important as well.
What's that?
Short-lived tokens. It's also why they're extremely important. So you don't have a specific API key that's up for a year, check it into your GitHub repository, and it remains there. If you're using short-lived tokens and authentication, you're protected somewhat.
Until the next article that shows you're not.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so you got to check back here in hopefully 2 weeks. Just hit the bell and subscribe so you know when we go live. Other than that, Steve, anything else we missed we want to chat about?
Nope. This has been 10 articles, 10 breakdowns, all the wildest news in the cloud native world for you.